So this is just for your knowledge and very important concept. Yesterday I was, doing some work on AI, the Anthropic Claude. So I was trying to, calculate, how, like we had almost a very poor period of last 2 years in terms of profitability of the corporate world. The revenues were not growing. But the last year, September onwards, and maybe March, the government reduced the tax. They brought in the new regime where anybody with 12 lakhs and above, they're required to pay tax. Okay, so there's a big relief for the taxpayers. And then later on, there was a GST, reform which happened where they lowered they brought only three, tax slabs and reduced the GST impact on the public. And then there were about two or three rate cuts by the RBI. The repo rate is today 5.25%. Okay. And then you have the pay commission, which is, I think they have announced, or they're going to announce, but I don't know about that. So a lot of measures have been used by the government to boost the performance of the companies, to make the economy, do well in the coming year. So till the Q3, which was the first quarter where the results were announced, and we found that the revenue and the profits were good compared to the previous quarters. Of course, there was one very important thing which happened which actually dampened the profits of the corporate was the labor code. The new labor code was introduced where all the companies who are having labor intensive like that the IT sector or the other places which are deploying a lot of employees, so they have to make a provision with regard to gratuity, with regard to provident fund, with regard to ESI, and they have to make a gratuity is going to be now after 1 year. Earlier it was 5 years. So then they have to calculate how much the gratuity liability will be. So that there is an accounting kind of a provision which was made in the balance sheet or profit loss account of all the companies, which reduced the net profit. So it was an accounting entry, okay, because it will have an impact over the years. But they have taken the hit one time and showed the reduction in their profitability in this quarter. So if we exclude that and again, see how the corporate world has performed. So we found that they're done very well. So we are in the inflection stage, and they started doing these quarters. Numbers were about 8-year high number, 8-quarter high number. So after 8 years, we have again come back to a very good number. Okay. So, and what they are projecting is that the corporate companies will have at least 15%. Their top line will grow by 10% approximately, and the profitability will go up by 15%. Okay. That is what the projection is for the next 2 years. Fine. And, in the market, in the stock market, what happens is there are two things, basically the valuation and the profitability. If we are, highly valued, overvalued, as we were in past, so that valuation has been checked because in the last 18 months, the market has not gone up so much. Rather, it's remained flat. Okay. Whereas companies have shown better performance. So our valuations have come back to almost normal. They're slightly elevated. Okay. If you look at the Nifty 500, companies, they are currently valued at 23 PE ratio, whereas historically it has been 22.8. So we are there almost, we have no froth in our valuations. So markets are absolutely fit and fine. And any amount of further profits will add to the stock market return. So if the profits are going to go up by 15%, which means the stock market is going to, mirror the profits. Fine. The stock market is going to also go up by 15% because the markets are perfectly valued, fairly valued. If they were overvalued, then, the market would have not gone. First, they would have actually brought the valuation in line, okay, to a 23 level, which is historical level. Okay. And then the market would have gone up by 12 or 13%. With that, what happens is that market first will, bring down the valuation. Okay. Because, the investors, they want that if the value is higher and market is overvalued, it's not fairly valued. So if first the values will go and meet the criteria, historical criteria. And then any further earnings, which again, make the valuation to be to the 22.8 or so. So to that extent, the market will go up. Okay. So market is today perfectly valued. The large caps, the mid caps, and the small caps. So large caps in line, mid caps slightly overvalued, and small caps are still overvalued. but they are the companies which are showing the best performance. Okay. So there is some chances of correction in the small caps, fine. But the large and mid caps are largely in line. So the Nifty 500 captures all large, mid, and big small caps. So in the large caps, how many shares are there? I'm asking you. अगर Nifty 500 देखें हम, Nifty 500 देखें, तो उसमें कितने large caps हैं? Just raise your hand if you know that. Just don't speak out. In Nifty 500, how many are the large caps? You know the answer? No, don't answer. You know it? Yes or no? Yes or no? No. You know? There? Anyone? So who knows it? Don't answer. Anybody knows with perfection. So this is a very important thing. You know, this is IMT Ghaziabad, the top 15th ranked company in India in terms of B school. And if you don't know how many large caps we are, and still you have a doubt, large caps 100 companies, sorry. Top 100 companies in India, as per the SEBI regulations, are large caps. Okay. The mid caps are the next 150. Okay. So that means in Nifty 500, 250 companies are large and mid, as per the SEBI classification. Okay. And the rest are small caps. There are 5,000 companies which are listed on the stock exchange. So out of that, the 500 companies are 90% or 95% of the profitability or the sales of the entire India. Fine. If I'm not mistaken. So 500 companies, they are the major earners. Okay. Rest are small companies making, 1 crore of profit, 50 lakhs of profit. So if you just add them, it is not a big amount. So 500 companies, they capture almost, 90% of our revenue and profits of the company. Is that okay? So don't forget, because, it's the most important thing. And how the markets behave, like the markets make mistakes. When I say make mistakes, what do you mean by that? Anyone? Market makes mistakes. This is a very famous, kind of phrase in the markets. So what is that? Market makes mistakes. So if I say market makes mistakes, means what? Means markets are never fairly valued. Either they're overvalued or undervalued. So that's why the markets are, sometimes they are too optimistic about the future. So they will be trading at a much higher, ratio, P ratio or a valuation ratio compared to what it's supposed to be trading. Or sometimes there's a big pessimism in the market because, currently with, this AI and everything. So all the IT stocks have been roject. They are down by 30 to 40% compared to their peak. But it is not that the IT companies are going to finish, because they are going to only use AI, and ultimately, they are going to benefit out of this. So today, in the markets, the question, nobody asks the question. First, they sell. Question बाद में पूछेंगे, पहले बेचो, because there is something wrong which is going in the market. So with the pessimism happening in the market is always brought to a level beyond even you can think about. So there's a capitulation stage where the market capitulates in such a way that it looks to be very attractive again. In 2008, the P ratio of India went up to 22, okay, which was the highest P ratio of Nifty in those days. And the market was going every day up. And then suddenly there was a financial collapse in the world, okay, and all the markets, they tanked. I was holding, that time I was working with a company, and I started, putting a lot of money into the market. I had a portfolio of 1 crore that time. And I was making roughly 2 or 3 lakh rupees per month. So I was thinking that I'll quit my job and I don't require this. Market is enough for me. So my portfolio was, I had just put 30 to 40 lakhs, it became 1 crore. Okay. So in January 2017, I asked my RSM. That time I had no knowledge of the stock market. जो अभी आज knowledge है उतनी नहीं थी. So I called up my RSM of Citibank, Manu Avasthi. Even he didn't have any knowledge, He was the RSM. He was from some B school, maybe IMT Ghaziabad. I don't know. So मैंने बोला, मनु क्या करना है? अभी हम इसको होल्ड करें या बेचें? He said, no, sir, don't sell. The market is going to, go up to so level. अभी तो 6,200 level in Nifty का, it will go up to 10,000. But I didn't agree with him. मैंने कहा नहीं, it looks to me, very risky. Because, जो मेरी अपनी research कहती है, मेरी research उतनी थी नहीं. So what I did was, in January 15th, I sold, about 20 lakhs of my stocks against the advice of my RSM. But still I had the whole portfolio with me. And on 17th January itself, the next day, the market tanked. Okay. The index, the Sensex was 22,000. It came down within a span of 1 year, it came down to 8,000 level. The P ratio, which was 22, came down to 9. Okay. And then when I read that historically India has been trading at the lowest at 9 only. So it's a time where the market looks to be undervalued. A lot of pessimism has come. World over markets, it's not only India, everybody tanked. The Dow Jones also, tanked. Everybody tanked by 60 to 70%. All the markets came down 60 to 70%. And whatever profit I had earned, it vanished, except some profit which I booked. Then I started again focusing on my work. Ye to theek nahi hai. Let me just focus on my job rather than thinking of leaving and enjoying my rest of my life. So, so then, there was a reality check which happened. And then I read, don't rely on the markets. They are not going to take care of your jobs. So you have to really work hard and earn your earning. Markets are going to be there, but they are going to bounce back. But it is not that you can just 100% rely on the markets. तो आप अपनी नौकरी आराम से करो. अभी कोई आपको जल्दीबाजी नहीं है छोड़ने के लिए. So then I started, then, the market was down. But then after 14 to 15 months, Manmohan Singh came to power. Okay, I think it was his second term. And there was some news that Mayawati will become the prime minister. Because Congress had not gone they got only 140 seats. So the moment news came, Mayawati can become the prime minister, the market again tanked a little bit, 10%. And then finally, Manmohan Singh took the oath and the market started revising again. And within no time, the market recovered almost, from where it was. Okay. And in the meantime, what happened in the January, I was, my daughter was in Pune and she came from Pune and she was, down with that एक फीवर होता है जो खाने से हो जाता है, क्या नाम होता है उसको, अभी भूल जाता. तो मैं क्या था कि आई वाज टेकिंग केयर ऑफ माय डॉटर. सो आई गॉट अ कॉल फ्रॉम माय सिस्टर इन लॉ and she started investing in mutual funds, and she was also making good amount of money. And मेरा जो co-brother थे, he was in armed forces, so he was a major. So she said कि she used to call me जीजा. So she says, जीजा क्या करें, कोई बंदा आया मेरे पास and I want to invest. He says कि 5 लाख रुपए लगा दो ICICI प्रूफ फंड में, तो लगा दूं मैं. मैंने कहा क्या कर रहे हो, market is today trading at the all time high and you are going to deploy all 5 lakhs in one go. Don't do that. In equity market, you don't invest like that. You invest through SIP route or, in small amount. You don't have to build a portfolio. आपने बना लिया, but ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने इतना बना लिया कि you just put 5 lakhs in one go. I see ICICI Pro Infrastructure. I said, I have also put my money in this fund, but I'm not putting now. If I have to come, I'll come out of this thing. But the market is not down. Market is not down, but it was, it's about, the highest level. It was around 15th of March, 15th of January only, before the market tanked, which was 2 days after that. But she never accepted my advice. And she invested 5 lakh rupees in ICICI Pro. Okay. On that very day. Next 2 दिन के बाद market नीचे आ गई. वो जो 5 lakhs था, it became 1 lakh in a matter of just 6 months. And she called me, says, तो 1 लाख रुपए हो गया, क्या करें? मैं क्या करें क्या? मैं तो मना करा था आपको. फिर we had just put all the money in one go. He says, no, that guy was saying, no, the market will go up, so don't worry about it. It's an infrastructure stocks are going to do very well. So for the next 3 years, the infrastructure stocks are all down. The capex cycle was broken in India, and she was not able to recover her amount for at least 5 years thereafter. So then what happened? The market started gradually going up, but it was a painful recovery. So from 8,000 Sensex, it went up to 14,000. From 22,000, it came to 8,000. Then it quickly went up after 16 months to 14 to 15 to 16. Okay. And then there was some sigh of relief कि कुछ तो हुआ. So, so the market makes mistakes. So markets are at times too optimistic. At times it is too pessimistic. Okay. Fine. So, there was, then I read about, index called PMI index in that time, which I think I talked about here, PMI index, which is published every month on 1st of the month of all the countries. Okay. If the index is above 50, the country's economy is doing well. It is Purchaser Manager Index. Okay. Which captures, how much are dispatches taking place in a country, how much is the employment being generated, and there are some three parameters on which the index has been made. So India has been doing above 50, 60, okay, for both services, PMI services and PMI manufacturing. Both is published every month. So please have a look on that on your, Google if you have time later on. So it showed that there were some signs of recovery in the world economy. From there, where they noticed that the packing material has been now started producing and dispatching. तो पैकिंग मटेरियल जो है वो पन्नी होती है ना जो जिसमें हम पैक करते हैं उसकी प्रोडक्शन और डिस्पैच होना शुरू हो गया मार्केट में. So that is the first early signs that the economy is turning around. क्योंकि सबसे पहले तो लोग पैक बनाएंगे सामान बनाएंगे तो उससे उन्होंने लगाया कि कहीं ना कहीं we are round the corner of the economic recovery, and the recovery started thereafter. And so the market make mistakes. So that was the lesson which was learned, that market doesn't never price the things perfectly. So they never value the stocks the way it should be valued. Okay. Now, if you look at the Indian valuation, I talked about the Nifty 500 or Nifty 50, they're currently around 22 level or P ratio. Okay. But the industry, this is the whole of, benchmark. But if you look at the company by company, each company or each, industry has a specific P ratio. All the new age companies, okay, they will be always trading at a higher P ratio. And all the classic like steel and other companies, they will be trading below the average. Okay. The companies which have a great future will command a higher P ratio. Okay. Like suppose, forget the IT companies which are trading at 25, 26 before the IT AI, kind of a thing came into existence. So they were trading at higher than the Nifty P because they were the companies considered to be doing very well in future. Okay. Whereas Tata Steel trades around a P ratio close to about below 10. Abhi thoda badh gaya uska because there is some kind of a, revival of the steel industry. So there are some companies which trade below the average, which is 22. Some companies trade higher than the average. Depending upon, what is the future. The company which has a great future will always command a higher P ratio. There are some companies which are trading at a very 100 P ratio also. Okay. Because there is something, because they are going to do very well in the next 3 years. The people have bought the shares and they pushed up the valuation to a level of 180. Like, like Hindustan Unilever, till last couple of years back, it was used to trade at a P multiple of 60. Asian Paint was trading at a multiple of 70. They have been all brought down. They're trading now at a P multiple of 35 to 40, still at a high level, but they have been halved. So there is always a re-rating happening between the industry and the company wise. So the P ratio remains a kind of a check that how they are valued. Okay. Now, what happened? The COVID happened. How much time is left? 10 minutes reh gaye. Abhi hai. So, COVID came and there's a lockdown. Lockdown came and, all the factories and everything was closed. The market tanked by about 35 to 40%. Okay. Because of the COVID. And then the lockdown was over after 12 months, 16 months and the market bounced. Okay. So the effect was the leverage effect because, companies were shut down. They had all the resources. They never laid off people. They had all the machines, equipment. So they were waiting, because they couldn't open their businesses because of the COVID. So the moment the COVID was over, so the companies which had the highest operating leverage, they, jumped by 200%. Fine. And the companies which are having a low operating leverage, they jumped by only 20%. Okay. So there are two kinds of leverages we talk about. One is called the operating leverage, and another is called the financial leverage. So I'm just going to explain this and then going to talk a little bit more. So this is a simple, Excel sheet to understand the impact of both the leverages. So a company, I just, given a profit loss account. The sale is 1 lakh units. Okay. Rate is 2 rupees. 2 lakh rupees is just total sales of this company because 1 lakh multiplied by 2. Now, suppose the variable cost of the company is 1 lakh. 1 lakh units, 70 paisa. So which is 70,000. So that means the contribution generated by the company will be 2 lakh minus 70,000. So contribution how much? 1 lakh 30,000. Now the fixed cost which the company has deployed is 1 lakh. That means the rent, another thing which doesn't move, It's a simple Excel sheet. So, we have segregated the cost of the company into fixed and variable. So there would be some semi-variable, some fixed. So what we have done, we have just segregated how much is the variable and how much is the fixed, assuming that everything can be classified into variable and fixed. Okay. So if you look at 41% is variable and 59% is fixed. Okay. So the company has a higher operating leverage, isn't it? So the EBIT will be 1 lakh. Is that okay? So 1 lakh 30 contribution minus 1 lakh fixed cost. The profit, the operating profit of the company is how much? 30,000. Now, company has to pay some interest on the loans. So let's go to the capital structure. Now the company has, equity shares of 2,000 shares which are issued to the public, 10 rupees each face value. So 20,000 is equity. And the debt of the company is 50,000. Company is paying currently 11.25% interest. Okay. So the total capital structure is 70,000. I've just kept the figures very low so that we can understand it. So on 11.25, the interest will come to 5,625. Okay. How it has been done? We can just use the formula to calculate, just see it. So it is basically 11.25 into 50,000. Okay. So the EBIT is how much? 24,375, which means the EBIT minus interest EBT. Okay. Then the tax is how much? 20. Have used 30%. That time 30% of the tax. So 7313. Okay. Fine. So the tax is this. So that means the PAT is how much? 17,000. Simple mathematical calculations. So earning per share will be 8.5. How we do that? So we take the 2,000 shares and divide it by the PAT. So we get 8.5. Is that okay? So earning per share is company ka 8.5 aa gaya. Now suppose the company is trading at a P multiple of say 10. So what will be the share price of the company in the market? 85. जितना प्रॉफिट कमाती है उसके 10 गुना वो ट्रेड करती है मार्केट में. So companies, P ratio is 10. So companies market price in the market would be, stock market will be 85 rupees. Now let's understand further. So I'm just, A, B. So I'm just going to unhide some of the columns from here. So what happens? The company which was selling 1 lakh units, they find the sale has gone up to 1 lakh 10,000. Okay. So, and इसको भी unhide कर देते. So that means the company's total sale will now go up to 2,20,000. Is that okay? So 10% increase in sales. Okay. Now the variable cost is 70 paisa. So it will go up to 77,000. Fine. So which means the contribution will also go up by 10%. Contribution level तक profit में कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा. But then the fixed cost doesn't go up. It remains the same. Fine. What will happen? The EBIT will jump from 30 to 43,000, which is 43%. So 1% sale has increased the profit of the company by 4.3%. So that means 4.3 is called the operating leverage here. Look at the bottom. The operating leverage is 4.3. So if the sales goes up by 10%, the operating profit of the company goes up by 43%. Now the interest also remains the same. Because the loan the company has taken, they will pay the same thing. So now the EBT will go up to 53%. Okay. Which means the combined effect of both the leverages, the financial leverage and the operating leverage, has jumped the profit by 53%. So which means the financial leverage is 1.23 and the combined leverage is 5.3, which means 1% sale will increase the PAT of the company by 5.3%. So that means that 10% has increased the PAT of the company to 53%. Is that okay? Now, what will happen? At this, we found the earning per share has become 13.1. So from 8.5, it has gone to 13.1. With 10% increase, the company's EPS goes up by 53%. And look at the P ratio, it is 10. So share price will jump to 130. 10% sale बढ़ी, share price का effect कितना है? 85 to 130. Now exactly this happened after the post-COVID. All the companies which are enjoying high operating leverage, the moment they started producing and selling, so their profits was doubling because of the operating leverage impact, and their share prices also doubled in the market. Okay, fine. Is that clear? Now it will have, this is the good part of the leverage. Okay, but the bad part of the leverage is if your sales goes down. Okay, for example, if the sales goes down to say, I say 90,000, what will happen? 10% कम हो गया. So the same will have a negative impact. There is a 10% reduction in the sales, which will reduce your profit by 53%, and your share price will come to only 39. So this is what happened at the COVID time, when all the companies, they were locked down, the share price fell down to approximately 30 to 40%. The moment the lockdown was lifted and the share prices started going up. Is that okay? Is it clear? So the next thing which I checked was on the Claude was that in the next year, the major problem, this is a very important thing, okay? The major problem with the Indian economy was we were showing a very good amount of GDP. We were showing 8.2% GDP and the stock market was not even moving an inch. Stock market बढ़ती नहीं थी. So there's a totally disconnect between the economic activities just happening in the country and the stock market was not even showing any kind of an increase. Do you know why it happened like that? GDP बढ़ रही है. India is the fastest economy in the world. Whereas Taiwan market, Korean market, American market, they're all gone up by 100%. Rather, Korean market, it jumped by 100%. The Korean market, there are only two companies, Samsung and, the Samsung and LG and one more company, okay? They captured almost 70% of the market cap. India जैसी मार्केट नहीं है वहां पर. हमारे यहाँ तो 5,000 कंपनी है जिसमें 500 कंपनी सब अच्छी हैं. वहां पर सिर्फ 3-4 कंपनी है जो मार्केट को ऊपर ले जाते हैं नीचे ले जाते हैं. एंड द कोरियन मार्केट from the last 20 years have never gone up to the level what it was, the all-time high. So today they are sitting on an all-time high, which is more than India's all-time high. Okay. So they have recovered that 20-year gap and they have done well. Okay. So India was not doing. So there was a one question, which was baffling everybody's mind, the people who have, less knowledge like us. ये क्या हो रहा है? कि India is doing so well and the economy is not doing, the market is not, responding. So can anybody tell what was the reason for that? Anyone? Just think about some reasons, okay? We can even think about, even if you don't know, just think about, कि क्या reason हो सकता है that, we are constantly showing a very good numbers in terms of GDP. And, there was one, the opposition always make a fun of that. They'll say that, the IMF has said that we are the poorest system of reporting numbers. Okay. हमारा number it गलत है. And people can easily believe कि मार्केट तो उठती नहीं रही है और नंबर तो हम 8% दिखा रहे हैं जीडीपी. So there is something disconnect with what is happening in the economy and what is happening in the stock market is not even rewarding the companies and pushing up this thing. Now there are two things. Before 2 years the market had run up like anything. Everybody wanted to put money in the stock market. I used to get calls whenever I used to go to college, the PO office, the faculties, they used to, ask me, कहाँ लगाना चाहिए पैसा? And I used to guide them. मैंने कहा, but with warning, ऐसा नहीं है कि जो market चल रही चलती रहेगी. There was one, guy who was in Navy, ex-Navy guy, and he, sat with me and I told him कि यहाँ लगा सकते हैं पैसा. So he put a lot of money. And 3 महीने के बाद उसका फोन आया, सर मेरा तो कुछ बढ़ता ही नहीं, वहीं के वहीं है, आप तो कहते थे बढ़ेगा. मैंने कहा मैं कोई गारंटी नहीं देता हूँ. But these are good places that the company will do well and you will make money. But wait for it, have patience. आप रिवॉर्ड हो जाओगे. उसके बाद तो 15 महीने बीत गए, मार्केट तो वहीं की वहीं है. Market has not gone up. Fine. So what happened was 16 months back, our P ratios were so high. We were trading at 26 P ratio. The Sensex level, Nifty level was around 26, 27. The mid cap was trading at 35 times P. Small cap was trading at 40 times P. So we have done so well. Everybody wanted to put money in India and the markets had done well. Okay. So market were very high. And then the reality came. The profits were not growing. Despite GDP growing, the profits are not growing. ऐसा reason क्या है? Can anybody guess? That is the nominal growth. Our inflation was absolutely not going up at all. Inflation बढ़ी नहीं रही थी इंडिया में. The wholesale inflation became negative. The nominal GDP and the real GDP gap was just 0.2. When they announced the number, they say this is the GDP, the real nominal GDP, this is the deflator. अगर वो निकाल दो, तो this is the real GDP. Deflator was just 0.2%. Okay, fine. So then the government decided that they are going to change the mechanism also. So they introduced a change. They had made 2011 as the base year. Now they have made 2022 as the base year. उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. अभी अनाउंस हुआ रिजल्ट. So we still got about 7.8% or 7.6% GDP. Okay, fine. So market has still not responded. The numbers looks to be very good. They are much better. They have changed the entire thing. There were a lot of flaws in, I mean, this thing, because we have almost 60% or 50% of the market is basically the GDP is calculated on the basis of, 50% is all digitized. We have the numbers. Baki jo hai wo, on the basis of some parameters, it is calculated. कि कितनी हमारी economy चलेगी. Okay. So now what they have done is then, they have introduced a lot of things into that. Electricity kitni consume ho rahi hai, household kitni ho rahi hai, idhar, so they're capturing all the numbers and they're trying to figure out what is our real GDP. So we have improved our way of our calculation of GDP drastically. But we found the result is same, the GDP is growing. But now what is happening is the nominal GDP has started growing. It will grow up by 10%, 10.5% next year. अगर नॉमिनल जीडीपी बढ़ती है तो कंपनी के प्रॉफिट भी तो बढ़ जाएंगे ना. अगर आपकी रेवेन्यू 10% बढ़ेगी तो आपका प्रॉफिट 15% बढ़ेगा. अगर आपकी नॉमिनल जीडीपी 8% ग्रो कर रही है तो आपका प्रॉफिट 10% बढ़ेगा. ओके, और इन्फ्लेशन है ही नहीं. Government wants, everybody wants the inflation should be there because the government is not able to collect, when they calculate how much will be our GST revenue, how will be income tax revenue, they find the economy is expanding, but their income is not growing. The government treasury income is not growing. Similarly, the corporate profits are not growing because our real GDP is not, growing, and there is a hardly small gap between the real GDP and the nominal GDP. So next year, they say that the GDP will grow. I'll just show you here. So I went to Claude. Okay, I'm just going to show a glimpse of that Indian economy. So this is made by Claude after I asked a lot of questions to Claude. Okay, I'll just share this also. So so then I asked that how the GDP has been announced. So can you analyze the number? So then they said that अभी जो हमारा foreign inflows आ रहा था पहले तो negative था, अभी positive होना शुरू हो गया from February onwards. Some green ticks here. So that is not the point which I want to discuss. So then the corporate results talk about. So I talked about the Q3 results. This is results are good. If you take the labor code out, the results look to be that India is going to do well. Okay. So then we came out the Q3 GDP analysis. Okay, fine. So look at the real GDP, 7.8. Okay, and the nominal GDP is only 8.93 in 2006. Slightly up because Q3 is capturing that 8 point. It was below 8 earlier. Now in the next year, the nominal GDP is going to grow at 10.3. Okay, so that is what there's a sigh of relief to the economist that the economy is going to grow at 10.3 nominal. Okay, so it says now, I'll just show you this thing. I'll just share all the things and we'll talk about little more detail if you want. So nominal GDP growth, this is very important. So I asked the question, what is the link between the nominal GDP growth and the profitability of Indian corporate world? 500 companies का इस पर क्या impact पड़ेगा? How the profits will go up, all those companies. So he says that so it is 5 decade low till in 5020. अभी F26 का जो numbers हैं, the deflator is 3 point, no, the deflator is minus 0.5. Okay, so then हाँ, अब आता है यहाँ से शुरू. Institution wise forecast for 27 nominal GDP. So SBI Mutual Fund says the real GDP will go up by 7.2%, whereas the nominal will go up by 11%, the last column. And GDP deflator will be 3.8, which has been almost like minus, so it is going to 11. Whereas Business Standard poll consensus says 10% nominal GDP. Then the other people. So the overall consensus is given the last column that the GDP will grow at close to about 6.8 to 7, and the GDP deflator will be 3% or 3.5. So that means the economy is going to grow above 10%. Okay. So then I asked this question that what will be, and then they talked about the full year trajectory also. So this is 10.2. Okay, and 10.2 and 10.2 for both the financial year 27 and 28. So how it is going to impact the the companies, Indian corporate profits, how they are going to be impacted by this thing which is going to happen. So it says, so then it came up with a formula, okay, which said that the PAT growth is equal to the nominal GDP growth into change into PAT divided by GDP ratio. So there's a new term which I learned. I'll talk about that. What is that? Okay. So it says that the nominal growth is basically the top line growth of the company. Like if the GDP goes by 10%, most likely all the companies will also show 10% increase. Assuming that everybody is a manufacturing and no agriculture निकाल दो तो और बढ़ जाएगी. Okay. So 10% अगर हमारी इकोनॉमी ग्रो करेगी रियल, so the companies मोटा they will show a 10% increase in the sales volumes, whereas the profit is going to have a multiplier effect. So it says, so it calculated for me, then I'm just going to share because time is very less. So it says that the complete profit growth math. So it says bull case scenario. The nominal GDP goes up by 11.5% and another 5.7% will be on account of that, the operating leverage and the financial leverage and other leverages. There are a lot of factors. There are 5 or 6 factors: operating leverage, financial leverage, and the third is India's tax. We have the new regime kicked in about 2 years back. Earlier the tax rates are high. Now the tax rates have been brought below a level where the companies are going to adopt. They are going to pay 22%, 25%. Earlier they were paying 30%. So it will have an impact on the profitability also. Okay. So it says that the PAT growth will be 18 to 20% next year. 27. Okay. Which was hardly about 8 to 9% last year. The bull case scenario. The base case scenario will be 14 to 16, and most of the analysts in the world, India में बाहर के वो कह रहे हैं हम 14 to 16% तो ग्रो करेंगे ही करेंगे. This is the base case. And the bear case is 8 to 10%. Even in the bear case, we will be still growing at 8 to 10%, and the average comes to about 15%. So, if we are perfectly valued today, there is no froth in the market. So, our Sensex and Nifty are going to jump by 15%. So, that is the end result here, what it's telling you. Okay. So, in the 2 year, so I asked in the next 2 year, what kind of return can you expect from the stock market? It says that up 2027 is going to 15% and 2028 it's going to be 13%. So the combined effect will have 14%. So it's not great number. We have been growing at 25% also in past, the profit number. Before, our market touched to almost the all-time high. Before that, we had grown very high. After the COVID, we were doing very well. So we are coming to that situation now gradually, rather than normal situation. So we will be growing around 14 to 15%. A 14 to 15% return in stock market is considered to be very good. So we are coming back to that. So the mean return of Indian markets are going to be 14 to 15, or rather it has been 14 to 15%. So we are going to touch that thing. Okay. So it says operating leverage. Why the PAT grows faster than the revenue? Operating leverage, fixed cost spread over higher revenue, so margins expand. What happens is the fixed cost is not going up, so the margins improve for the companies. Okay, so which will have about 1.5 to 2.5% impact over the nominal growth of the company. That means जितनी sales growth होगी उसके ऊपर 2-2.5% तो profit बढ़ जाएगा because of the operating leverage, and the financial leverage will have maximum 1% increase in the profits of the company. Okay, debt flat or falling as the profit rise, the interest burden shrinks. So interest is not growing. The burden of the interest is shrinking because the bottom line is going up. Top line is growing. So what happens that we'll have the financial level. Tax efficiency, 0.5%. Deferred tax, MAT credit absorbed in FY26. So I'm just going to ask more about to detail this. But the new regime, old regime, so most of the companies in India have now come to the new regime. So they have got the benefit of this tax efficiency. Okay. So the total alpha means जितनी सेल बढ़ी है 10%, उसमें कितना अल्फा जनरेट करेगी प्रॉफिट्स में. So they'll generate 4 to 6%. So if the nominal GDP is 10% and assume that the sales growth will be 10%, so the profit will be 15%. Why 10%? Why 10% nominal growth, 15% PAT is logical, not optimistic. He says it's quite logical. Why optimistic? It's based on the numbers itself. Okay, it's based on numbers. He says that it's based on numbers. So then he's talking about the multiplier effect. Okay, चलो इसको हम बाद में करते हैं, अभी टाइम हमारे पास कम है. So Nifty 500 companies. So I just found out. Okay, so key executive summary, real जितना हुआ 10% nominal growth. So so which sectors are going to do the best? The best sectors would be the last line, BFSI sector. आपका sector. So this sector is going to be the best beneficiary of this kind of a scenario. Okay, so it talked about 900 Nifty 500 PAT growth. Nifty 500 ICI says 17%. So according to his calculation, it's coming 15, whereas the ICICI estimated 17%. Okay, he's taken the base average. So ICI has taken the bull case, which is 17%. Okay, so so this is basically the analysis. एक चीज और मेरे दिमाग में आ रही है, just I thought I'll share with that. Then I asked him कि ये तू बता तो दिया है, अब इसमें कुछ चीजें दिमाग से निकल रही हैं मेरे. So then it showed me the whole working. I captured that working. Okay, so I have the whole math. How the profit goes up. So एक लाइन का प्लॉट ने मुझे बता के दिया कहां से प्रॉफिट जनरेट होगा. So that I have also just shared. Now the last thing which I did was I asked, if you can capture the whole economy's growth, can we capture the profit of the company? हर कंपनी का हम निकाल सकते हैं इस लॉजिक से. What will be the forecast? He says yes, very easily. The same logic can be applied. You just name one company, I'll do the maths for it. So I thought, okay, I'll